Now this chapter 11 deals with lighting outlets. Chapter 10 that we just reviewed deals with receptacle outlets. So if you're just beginning and you're reviewing lighting outlets, this illustration deals with grounding luminaires in accordance with 410.42 as well as 410.44. Now, the note states if GFCI circuit breaker is used, metal luminaires can be installed like an existing type installations in accordance with 410.44 exception 3. Now what this section, is basically saying, metal luminaires require an equipment ground, and the equipment grounding means and system can be made up in accordance with 250.118. But where we had an existing situation, then exception 3 and 410.44 would allow a metal enclosure type fixture installed if the circuit breaker was provided with GFCI protection. And then once again, all types of GFCIs are discussed in detail, the advantage, the disadvantage of each in Chapter 13 of NFPA 70B if one cares to increase their knowledge on these type of devices. Now notice the wiring method is a metal raceway, metal clad cable, AC or MC, non-metallic conduit or cable, PVC or Romex with an equipment ground. Now that is the basic rule, that we have an equipment ground pulled with the ungrounded conductor and the grounded conductor, which in this case would be the neutral, to ground that metal box and ground any type of metal of a lighting fixture, which the code calls now, as you know, a luminaire. Now notice the equipment ground. If we review 310.6b as in boy, then it's going to naturally refer you to 250.119 for color coding or identification of your equipment ground. And basically, general rules, number 6 or smaller, the insulation is green its entire length. Number 4 larger, you could identify in accordance with 250.119. Then review 250.118, and you could provide a grounding scheme. And notice you could have EMT, metal conduit, use the metal conduit as an equipment ground. Or you could have EMT and have redundant grounding, so to speak, by bringing in an equipment ground sized in accordance with table 250.122. And the equipment ground is based upon the overcurrent device protecting the ungrounded conductors and the equipment served. As you previously remember, if you reviewed every chapter, 240.3 dealt with protecting equipment with the overcurrent device, where 240.4 dealt with protecting the conductor's ampacity. Now, the conductor neutral in 310.6a refers you to 200.6 for your color coding or your identification. 310.6c, as in car, refers you to 210.5c for a branch circuit and to identify the ungrounded conductors. And basically, they can be any color except white, gray, green, or green with one or more yellow stripes. Now, this illustration is mainly illustrating when the equipment ground is always required to be routed with the ungrounded phase conductors and neutral conductors in accordance with 250.134b. Then it also addresses when you may have a metal fixture enclosure, and as long as it's on a GFCI ahead of it, you wouldn't necessarily have to have the equipment ground pulled with it. Now this would be for existing installations in old homes where the routing of your branch circuit was not equipped with an equipment grounding conductor. So as we have tried to point out throughout all the chapters in our presentation, when you deal with conductors, just put these two sections in your mind, that you must review 310.6 and 310.10. And all these sections we've been talking about, you're referred to. You don't have to remember all these sections, but just remember those two when you're dealing with conductors and you're dealing with insulation on the conductors. So this figure 11-1 coming out the gate is dealing when the grounding of luminaires is required in accordance with 210.42 and 410.44.